Hello everybody, this is Tim again, here with a new review. I figured I'd do a review for the film Logan, since I've recently seen it, and it's a pretty up-to-date movie. I'll just go ahead and give, this will be a quick review though, because this movie, even though it's a great film in my opinion, it went, well, what I'm saying is there's not like a big truckload to the story. This is pretty much a personal story for Wolverine, so this review will be fast because this movie just pretty much focuses on Wolverine, so it's going to be pretty easy to get through this film quick. So it takes place in like 2029, and Professor Xavier is suffering from like Alzheimer's or dementia, and he's pretty much like being took care of by Wolverine and Caliban. Caliban was the character from X-Men Apocalypse who like knew a bunch of stuff about other mutants or whatever. He's kind of like a bald-headed albino hooligan vampire dude. If you've seen X-Men Apocalypse, you probably know what I'm talking about. He's played by a different actor here, and I've seen this guy before. He was in the movie Hall Pass of all things that I've seen him in. I think he's a comedian. He does fine here. All the acting is good in this film. Nobody is bad in this film. Everybody delivers a good performance. Nobody's bad. Hugh Jackman does great as Wolverine. Pretty much takes place 2029. Mutants have stopped appearing because this company has been like putting things in food and drinks and stuff to keep mutants from being born. It suppresses like the mutant gene or to some such effect, and that's pretty much why there's no more mutants. And there's no new mutants, but there's like a few left. The X-Men have pretty much either all died or retired. We find out in the movie that Professor X actually had like some kind of brain schism or whatever, and he shot off a psychic ability that by accident that killed a bunch of the members of the X-Men team. So the majority of the actual X-Men team, at least from what we know in this film, are dead. And he's being took care of by Wolverine. Wolverine's like drugging him up so he won't remember what he did, to the X-Men team or whatever, or the other people at his school when he had like a psychic meltdown. And Wolverine's taking care of him, and there's these people called the Reavers that show up, and I actually like this guy's line. There's like this really slimy Texas type style dude who's like the leader of them, and he's got like a gold tooth. And he's talking to Wolverine. He's like, somebody left claw marks back there. I reckon it's like a choice between Freddy Krueger and he said somebody else, but just the fact that he mentioned Freddy Krueger, it just makes me laugh. That so this movie takes place in 2029 and Freddy Krueger is still relevant in 2029. That just makes me laugh. It's like he's never going away. But that was funny. Pretty much, if you've seen the preview, you know kind of what you're getting into. This film is structured more like a western in tone, like a comic book western. There's no big over-the-top mutant powers or anything like that in this film. This film plays it very low-key and realistic. Heard it compared to The Dark Knight or the Nolan films. It goes for that kind of vibe. I will say right off the bat, this film is not as good as The Dark Knight. It's not as well put together as The Dark Knight. It's not. This is a great movie. I'm not spoiling anything, though, by saying it's 4 stars out of 4. It's a great film. It's not on the level of Dark Knight, though, or Batman Begins. Or even Dark Knight Rises. It doesn't match Dark Knight Rises. Those are the 3 best comic book films I've ever seen, period. Those 3 Batman films. And this film does not match those, despite anything you have heard. It does not match those. With that said, this is still a great comic book film, and my personal new favorite X-Men film. My original favorite was Days of Future Past, and this film, in my opinion, sorry about that, leaning the laptop there a little bit. This film, in my opinion, has dethroned that film for me. This is now my personal favorite X-Men film. I love this film. I thought it was great. There are some nitpicks, minor things about it that I don't like. The Reaver guys show up. They got like mechanical hand replacements and body parts and stuff and such. And they're after this little girl named Laura, who is pretty much, we find out, like Wolverine's daughter, made from his DNA by the company. And Wolverine wants to get her across the border. He doesn't want to, and he actually tries to leave her multiple times. And he doesn't go back for her. She just manages to catch up to him and get in the vehicle, really. Wolverine couldn't give a crap about anybody in this film except Professor Xavier and a little bit of Caliban. That's pretty much it. Caliban gets captured. The Reaver guys try to use him to track Wolverine and Laura and Professor Xavier. There's this neat action scene where they're in like Las Vegas and Professor Xavier has like a mental meltdown again, and everybody's in like slow motion, but Wolverine can take it better because he's got like regenerative healing abilities, so he's able to handle it a little bit better. And he's like walking like real slow because everybody's like froze, and he's like just walking by and stabbing the bad guys like in the head and through the bottom of their face or whatever, and coming out the top of their head. That is cool. That is cool action. Any problems? The film goes on too long. There's like whole sections, that you could have chopped out of this film or made shorter in the editing to clean this, to tighten this film up by a little bit. It is too long. You get to the point where they're spending a little bit too much time on the road and they rescue these horses and his family takes them in for the night, and you get like the family dinner table scene where they're all feeling comfortable, and this is like Professor X's best day of his life in years. And that it goes on a little bit too long. That part of that could have been chopped out, especially the part where Wolverine goes off with the farmer guy to like fix his water or whatever, and he's having trouble with the neighbors and everything. And anyway, and Professor X finally remembers that it was him that killed a bunch of the X-Men, and right when he does, like this Wolverine weapon clone or whatever that they perfected that doesn't really have a mind, walks in there and like kills Professor Xavier in this cool scene. Very sad scene. Depressing movie. I'm not spoiling anything. If you've seen the trailers, you know what kind of vibe this film has. It's depressing as all hell. Kills Professor Xavier, and Wolverine comes there and finds him. He's like, he doesn't even care about the little girl. Wolverine's just like running off with Professor Xavier. He's putting Professor Xavier in the back of the truck. Professor Xavier dies. Hugh Jackman gets in a badass fight with a clone of himself, and they do a great job in this fight. It's a really cool fight. It's Wolverine versus Wolverine, Hugh Jackman versus younger Hugh Jackman, and they're duking it out, and Hugh Jackman's like losing, but he manages to get a little bit of an upper hand, and then the farmer guy that they were staying there with like runs the evil Wolverine over, and then he dies from his wounds. Like, this is a brutal movie in tone. Like, the guy's whole family dies in the film. Like, the farmer dude that they were staying with, his wife and son, all are killed along with Professor Xavier. They bury Professor Xavier. Caliban like blows himself up trying to take some of the Reavers with him, commits kamikaze suicide. Wolverine takes like a couple of days. This is another thing. At the end, we get to the end of the movie, and Wolverine is like staying with the little kids, and he's got Laura with him, and he's like sitting there healing up, and it takes him like 2 days, and it feels like the movie just goes on too long. Like they're dragging. They are. The film is dragging at this point. It needs to snap back into the action. I know what they're doing. They're trying to bring the drama and keep the film more of a drama with the action coming from that. But the problem is there's just too much lag in some of the drama here. But when the film snaps back into it, and Wolverine takes like this adrenaline shot, or drinks this adrenaline mutant drink to give him a boost, and he like goes to the forest, taking people out left and right. And Laura in this film is a badass. This little girl, whoever she is that plays Laura, Wolverine's daughter, she does a great job. Great acting performance in this film. In my opinion, she does great. She's like kicking ass left and right. She fights better than Wolverine in this movie. And Wolverine's like taking everybody out. And like the gold tooth guy or whatever, I just love like his like Texas slimy hillbilly performance. He kind of gives off his vibe where he releases like the clone Wolverine to fight Wolverine, and he's like, "Get him, boy!" I love that personally. And they're fighting, and he ends up getting killed by the kids ganging up on him, and they all kill him with their mutant powers. The dude with the gold tooth or whatever. That was cool. And then there's like the scientist guy who's the leader of the Reavers, and Wolverine pretty much just shoots him in the head, point blank range. It's like the dude starting to try to make a deal with him, and Wolverine just kills the dude automatically. Pretty sure he shoots him. He just kills the dude like super fast. I almost forgot whether he shot him or not. I could be wrong about that. I just saw the movie recently, so I'm kind of pumped after I saw it, and it's kind of hard to remember every little detail. But I'm pretty sure he shot the guy. But it's just cool either way how he just killed the dude like right off the bat. And the Texan dude is killed by the kids. That was cool. Seeing the kids finally get some comeuppance against these douchebag characters. The bad guys in this film, like individually, are only like decent. They're not memorable villains. They're only like decent. I would say individually, Apocalypse is better than any villain in this film, other than like even the evil Hugh Jackman in this film, which I think fits this film perfectly from a writing standpoint. Old versus young Hugh Jackman. Even him, he has no personality. Apocalypse is a better villain, honestly, individually than anybody in this film. But you don't need a villain like Apocalypse in this film. And Apocalypse was not a great villain. He was good to me for what he was in X-Men Apocalypse, but you don't need an over-the-top comic bookish character like that in this film. It would have killed this film, honestly. It would have killed it. But just as like character-wise, these people here are, well, I would say Apocalypse, after thinking about him a little bit more, I would say he was decent, but at the same time, character-wise, he was decent, but he was still more enjoyable than the people in this film individually. Like, character-wise, he was still more enjoyable for me personally. But as a whole, like the company in this film as a whole, just like how I feel about Hydra in the Marvel films, I feel like as a whole, as like an evil company, they are a good villain. They are. And better than Apocalypse in that way. And then we get to the final fight, Hugh Jackman versus Hugh Jackman. He manages to take himself out, but he's starting to lose the fight, and he's about to die. And then the little girl puts an adamantium bullet. Yes, they call back to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Wolverine is dying in this film due to like being poisoned by the adamantium in his body. At least that's what I got from it. And he has a bullet to kill himself in case the pain ever gets too much. He has the adamantium bullet from X-Men Origins, which was a terrible film. And Laura gets the gun, puts the bullet in it, blows evil Wolverine's friggin' head off. He ain't gonna regenerate from that. At least not this version of Wolverine. He has to have like some kind of chemical enhancement to help him heal like faster and more deadly wounds or whatever. So evil Wolverine's dead, and right when good Wolverine is like dying, he's telling Laura not to let anybody use her as a weapon or not to be what they made you or whatever. And she tells him that she loves him, and she finally calls him Dad for the first time, which I thought was really sweet and a perfect way to end the film. And right when he dies, all the kids are walking off to this place called Eden. That's supposed to be a safe haven for the children that may or may not exist. And she takes the cross that's on top of his grave and turns it into an X, which I thought was really cool, because he's pretty much like in this universe, as far as I know from this film, he's pretty much the last of the X-Men, and he's being buried, you know. So all in all, a great film. I thought this was a great film. I can't wait to own it. This is my favorite X-Men film. This is my favorite. In my opinion, this is my favorite. I haven't reviewed any of the other X-Men films, but this will be a first. But just to run down what I thought about the others, I actually thought the first X-Men film was a great comic book film. It's not a perfect movie, but it's a great film. I like the sequel better, X2. I really don't like X-Men 3, but I haven't seen it in a long time. My opinion might change on it. I'll admit I have not seen it in a long time. X-Men First Class I thought was great. I really liked X-Men First Class. It has some weaknesses in it, like the stupid nuclear bomb plot or whatever. That was just dumb. X-Men Days of Future Past was my favorite because I felt like it corrected the problems that were set forth, that were made in the franchise by X-Men 3 and X-Men Origins. I felt like it corrected those problems. I loved X-Men Days of Future Past. And X-Men Origins Wolverine, I hated. I liked X-Men 3 better than X-Men Origins Wolverine. From what I remember, X-Men Origins Wolverine was friggin' terrible. The Wolverine, I actually like The Wolverine. People are kind of mixed on that one. It seems like you either hate it or like it. Or love it or whatever. I actually really liked The Wolverine. It's not perfect, but I actually really liked it. Now, Logan is, well, I forgot Deadpool. How can you forget Deadpool? Deadpool I thought was great. I loved Deadpool. That movie was hilarious, and it had a sweetness to it at the same time with Deadpool's relationship with the chick in the movie. That was great. I love that. That movie was so charming. That was one of my favorite comic book films of last year. That's right up there, man. If not my favorite of last year. But this I think is slightly better than Deadpool. Slightly. I feel like Deadpool holds together better. I feel like Deadpool's a tighter film than this film, but this film has more meaning behind it. Deadpool works because it's Ryan Reynolds. He makes that movie. This movie works because of the tone and everything else, and I really feel like heartfelt in this film. Other than like Deadpool being reunited with the girl and I mean the girl he loved in Deadpool, I didn't give a crap about anybody else in that film. I mean, I found them funny, some of the other side characters, but I didn't give a damn about them. In this film, I cared about the kids and their plot and everything. So I'd have to say this film is my favorite, and it just leaves me with more of like a heartstrung, emotional turn by the end. Because Wolverine, even though he's not a great character, if you want to break him down as a character, he's only, well, I would say he's a great character, but he's a great character in the vein of like being the big tough badass dude who can like kick ass and take names. But Charles Xavier, Professor X, and Magneto are actually more interesting characters. But he still is a great character in like the pure coolness area. He's just a badass, and Hugh Jackman's great as him. And if this is truly his last film as Wolverine, I honestly don't think it will be. I think this will be the last like canonical like film of Wolverine. I don't think we'll ever see like another Wolverine story or anything, but I do think he'll come back for a cameo in a future X-Men movie. I don't think it'll be the next one or the one after. Well, it might be the one after the next one, but I do think we will get at least one more Wolverine cameo. But I do think, as far as his story is concerned, it's done with this movie. It's done. There's nothing else to do with the character. To bring him back after this and another film and a big major role would be honestly a cheat. There's just nowhere else to go with this character. It's done. It's finished. But just to watch all these movies like this has kind of left me wanting to do from the first film to this one. It just feels like a great ride, like seeing Hugh Jackman in all these, in the majority of these films, except for Deadpool. But yeah, all in all, 4-star film, and I'll see you guys with the next review.